I'm going to do a little talking. Miss Browder, our assistant principal, will be in shortly. And Dr. Mustafa, our other assistant principal, is off campus working on one of the new initiatives that the superintendent has around dropout prevention. They just want to make sure we have some things in place in the middle school, and she'll be spearheading that work next year. So she's off receiving that training this morning. So if you look at this agenda, it's not a long agenda because I do want to hear mostly from you all. So the part where it says principal ask, so I asked for two things, and I pretty much say this at all the meetings. One is around awards. And so one of the things, when I pull students and sit and talk with them, and I'll give you an example, like I'm talking to my 9th grade group, the kids that are in the 8th grade to take 9th grade courses. They're very bright students. They're not necessarily working to their full potential. And so one of the things I talk to them about is the 4 criteria of success. So you have intelligence, which some kids are just born with. You're kind of born with the intelligence you're going to have. Then you have work ethic, and that's something that you really have to push. Then you have craftsmanship. What is the quality of your work like? You know, if you put your name on it, what does it look like when it has your name on it? Because that builds your reputation. And then you also have how well do you get along with others? So in our business, we learn something called manage up and manage down, right? So how do you manage your boss, and how do you manage people that report to you? And that's how well you get along with others. And those 4 things will really help anyone be successful. You have good work ethic, good craftsmanship, and people can get along with you. They don't have to be your best friends, but they can get along with you and work with you. Now, the other component, the first one I mentioned, is intelligence. That's the only one you can be average in and still be successful. Now, you can have a very high IQ and be very intelligent, but if you have a poor work ethic, it's for naught. If your work, the things that you do don't have craftsmanship, it's for naught. And if people don't like you, people just don't like you, right? And that's the way it works. You need it both ways. So that's what we talked to them about. So to that point, that success criteria, I asked for awards from parents just for that. We're having awards day coming up in May for 6th, 7th, and 8th. If a family would like to give an award for whatever it is, give the criteria and the award so we can honor kids that may not make straight A's. Example, the award that my family is giving, my uncles and mom will be here to give that award, is they got a plaque. They have three plaques, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. My grandmother's name was, we call her Shul, but her name is Irene Fair. And one thing she taught us was to treat everybody right. And she believed in that. And it's some students that have that same trait that I see here at the school, right? So my mom and uncles, they're writing that criteria up. We'll give it to our awards committee, and then they'll discuss it amongst their grade levels on which kid fits this description. Does that make sense? Because those attributes need to be acknowledged as well. So that's the big ask from me. And so I don't need computers or anything like that. If you talk to the teachers, if they ask me for supplies, I go get them probably that same day. I have what I call my Amazon storehouse in the back, and I just replenish it. So as things come in, when teachers need something, I can just go back to a Science Lab 3, pull it out and give it to them. So we're not in need of things like that. So my only ask is to assist around awards. All right. And remainder of 2020, this school year, I think most of you all know when you walk in, you see on the left-hand side what the goals are. 75, 35, 10. Those are around Georgia milestones. And that's in my evaluation. That's in every assistant principal's evaluation. And that's in every teacher's evaluation. Either we meet those goals as a faculty or we don't meet them. Everybody's evaluation will look the same, yes or no. And our system that the state gives us, it asks, did you meet your annual goal? And our annual goals are 75, 35, 10. And if we hit those goals, from my calculations doing CCRPI since it's been out, that should put the school in between 84 to 86 range, which is I think that's a good platform. However, what happens at 84, 86, life gets hard. Because at that point, you're no longer just a school trying to make a turnaround. You turn around, now you're a school trying to sustain. And that causes different challenges. Because old habits die hard amongst faculty. Because a lot of this is still new, what we're doing with faculty. And they still need time to perfect it. And education is not a light switch business, right? Somebody's not performing well, it's not like interchangeable part. You can take them out, put somebody else in. So we witnessed that this year on the 7th grade. Had one teacher get a promotion, math teacher, go try to hire a new math teacher, guess what? There's no math teachers even, there's no applicants in the pool, period. Then we had to separate with a math teacher. There's no applicants in the pool, period. So that means our whole 7th grade has one math teacher. Not good, right? That's an out of your control thing. Because we can't we can't knock people upside the head and say, hey, come teach math. Right? And then when we do have applicants, not a lot of applicants want to come south. Right? And so we got to kind of cultivate the people that we have if they're coachable. If they're not coachable, that's when we start talking about separation. If they're coachable, it's kind of like my truck. As long as it gets here, I'm going to keep it. Right? I got to make a little minor repair, change the oil, spark plug. I have to do that. So that's kind of where we are with that. Yes, you had a...
I have a quick question. So if you having one 7th grade math teacher, their degrees, are the 6th and 8th grade teachers not able to help the 7th grade out as far as teaching?
It doesn't, the schedule doesn't allow for it. So for one, we created something called proximity learning. Some of our sister schools in the South are using it, and Central. Ms. Browder, myself, we've all been in there. The level of instruction is good. Now, what's different about proximity, no. You have a virtual teacher that's on the monitor, and that teacher is able to see the kids, control the computers. Kids are able to chat with the teacher offline. They don't have to worry about being afraid to ask a question. It's definitely consistent, what we call tier 1 instruction. And what that means is instruction at the level that we want kids to receive the first instruction. And then if kids don't get it the first time, that's when you look in, do we need to do remediation? Or if kids do get it the first time, do we extend the learning? But the first initial teaching is consistent. And unfortunately with humans, we based off of what happened this morning. Right? If somebody have a bad morning, some people are able to shake it off and come to work and be fine. But some things happen where you just can't shake it off. You know, we had a teacher, mom die. Great teacher, but your mom died. Yeah. Like suddenly, like it wasn't, she was sick. So that's where the inconsistency come in, even with the good. Yeah. Sometimes when you parent a company, they have those mechanisms in place to make sure there's no inconsistencies. And then with the other teacher, we're fortunate to find a PhD that's just working on getting the certification in. So we got lucky in that aspect, but what if we didn't? Like, what if we didn't have proximity? What if we didn't find a PhD? Like, would it just been in?
Yeah, not fair to the kids.
Yeah, and there was nothing. Right, that's an unfortunate thing. So, remainder of the year, I think Ms. Browder passed out some of the, so I'm gonna let her jump into this. She's gonna talk about our Success Academy. What we're doing to make sure kids are doing their best. Primarily, we're finished teaching the curriculum. We paced it out in the beginning of the year to make sure that we're able to get through all the standards. The reason why we assess so much, so we have that data to say, hey, Jarvis didn't do well with geometry. So we know during the Success Academy, we can spend more time with Jarvis on geometry. So it's not a one blanket that fits everyone. Can't say, all right, so everybody does this and we're gonna be good. So at this point of the year, especially our 8th grade, we're able to more individualize what students are getting. So we do a blanket. It is a blanket coverage in class, but from that I may say, well, you know what? You need to do this. You may need to spend more time with this as we get closer to the milestone.
So that's already been given out to the teachers on what individual child needs to have? Or
Yeah,
they already
it is already in the system.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Just a question, because you said that you're finishing, you've already completed teaching the standards. So
Yes.
were the standards was that taught being accelerated? Because I guess and what triggered me off was the fact that, okay, if you got a kid, like I said, all kids don't get standards at the same period of time. You got some kids that'll gravitate towards it, and you got other kids, it takes them a little bit longer. So was the curriculum rushed in order to get to this point, or it was just,
It paces out, and then our instructional framework lends to ongoing spiraling or remediation. So, example, I'm in ELA and I can't get, not marking the text. I can't get plot. All right, I can't get plot, but we've moved on to theme. In our instructional framework, every day starts out with a GMAS prep. And those teachers have the autonomy to whatever their students need to give them that during the GMAS prep. So that's multiple choice questions set up just like the Georgia milestone. And if we finish plot and I still don't get it, questions 1 and 2 may be over plot. 3, 4, and 5 may be over theme or analogies or anything else. So, and they're able to spiral that on as the year goes on. And so if I don't get it week 1, that is fine. You know, they're gonna keep it going. Mm-hmm. All right. So Ms. Browder, you want to talk about the Success Academy?
Sure.
So this is Ms. Browder. She is our everything assistant principal. She handles all schedules and makes sure student information is correct, but she's also over STEM. That's our science and math. And any of the STEM programs you hear us talk about after school, she's in charge of those as well.
Good morning, everyone. I passed out a flyer for you. The back side of it is what Godot or Georgia Department of Education provides for milestones. So just a brochure that has some frequently asked questions about milestones and the platform or the program as a whole. But on top of that, we have what GMAS or Georgia Assessment or Georgia Milestones Assessment System looks like at the Creek. So during March and April, we are running our Success Academy, and like Mr. Adams said, most of our contents have completed teaching their curriculum, and if they're not, we have a couple of grade levels that are finishing up within the next week and a half. And after that, they experience Success Academy, and this is a preparation program to reteach the GMAS domains and priority standards, because everything that's taught is not on GMAS. But we do know what GMAS looks like. A certain percentage is this domain, a certain percentage is that domain, a certain percentage is that domain. So we're re-exposing the standards, or re-exposing the children to those standards, because a lot of it was first semester. We don't want them to forget what we taught first semester. Even though they might have demonstrated mastery then, it's been since then that they've seen it. So we want them to see it again. And to the question earlier about accelerated, we definitely want our students to participate in Success Academy in our accelerated class, because accelerated means you get your current grade level, and then second semester-ish, you get the next grade level. But the Godot says your milestones is on your current grade level. So that means everything that they're tested on is from first semester. We don't want them to go into that blind or not remembering, hey, even though I know that stuff, what does it look like on an assessment? So the Success Academy in our accelerated classes is everything from that previous semester, because what they're working on is the year above them, right? That's ELA and math. We also offer Extended Day. That's an after-school tutorial program. That's to remediate and enrich those same domains, but it's after school. So the students have an opportunity to get a double dose. Also, to prepare for our milestones, we had 1 of 3 device checks. Last week was our first one, or 2 weeks ago was our first one. We'll have another one this week. And this is just to prepare to ensure that students' devices are ready to go. Students use devices for everything. We have missing keys, we have connectivity issues sometimes, and we don't want to wait till the day of milestones. So you might notice that your student might have a loaner, but that's because we want to get his or hers working. So we had a device check a couple of weeks ago, and we submitted a ticket. If it was, I can't connect, I don't have the app, We troubleshooted those issues. Now we're working on, I'm missing the F key or the K key or the J key, and I need to be able to type my constructive response. So we're working on those. We've ordered those. So we don't take the device if they're missing keys because they still need to work. And there's a keyboard that'll come up on their device on the screen. We just want them to be able to have a fully operable or operational device at the time of the assessment to reduce anxiety around the device itself. And then lastly, we have a secure practice test. And this is to ensure that students see what GMAS looks like. How do I eliminate questions or answers if I know, hey, this is not it? Test taking strategy. If it's on paper, you can mark through it, but how do you do that online or in the platform? What if there's a word I want to go back and check, or I want to highlight this word? So the practice test is an opportunity to become familiar with the tools of the platform and to, again, reduce the anxiety around the test itself. So we know they know that we've been working on the standards, but we want to make sure that the platform itself is not an issue. So the district as a whole has a secure practice test that we're participating in this Thursday. And here at Camp Creek, our 6th and 7th graders will participate in it first, and then 8th grade will have its own session. 8th grade is testing first. At the bottom of the sheet, you'll see our GMAS administration schedule for 2020. 8th grade participates first because the 8th grade tests are required for promotion. Students have to pass the 8th grade ELA in math in order to be promoted to 9th grade. So those tests are given first so that the scores are back in time so that students can know what the next steps are. And then we have some students who are in 9th grade classes. They're usually testing around the same time as the 8th graders, or as the 8th grade classes. And then 6th and 7th grade is the first full week of May. We do get those results back by the end of the school year, but because those aren't required for promotion, that's why it's given 3 weeks later. That's the district's window. Any questions about the platform, how we're preparing for it, the days, our schedule?
So 8th grade has 4 parts, but they're only being based on ELA and math to go to 9th grade. Is that
That's correct. At 8th grade and 5th grade, students take all 4 content areas. The other 2 areas, although it's not required for promotion, it could determine which science or social studies they might go into, whether it's environmental, biology, physics, or physical science, or for social studies, it could be the AP government, or just regular government, or advanced. That's what they'll use those for. Yes, ma'am.
Your extended day, how is that being handled? Is that something that is current, or is that something they can still enroll in? Is that being pushed out to everyone, or is it selective?
It's available for anyone who signs up. We keep the applications in the front office. It starts in September and it goes through milestones, but we just kind of changed the focus. During the school year, it's supports whatever's being taught in the classroom. So if ELA 6th grade is working on plot, after school would be 6th grade class would be working on plot. But now that all of the ELA curriculum has been taught, they will mimic the GMAS Success Academy after school. So it's like a double dose. And all students are eligible to participate. They just need to submit an application and indicate their mode of travel, whether they're on a sweet bus or the parent will pick them up. That's Mondays and Wednesdays after school.
Yeah, it's pretty well attended, which is a good thing.
Right.
With the extended day, for 7th graders, is it I know with the one math teacher, I know, because I'm a 7th grader, so I know that's been a struggle with the year. Is it only her helping after school with those 7th graders?
No, we have math teachers from other grade levels. We have 3 math teachers after school. And they split them up. They don't always go to the same person. It just depends on how many are in the program. I support it. I'm not over it. I can't give you the exact figures. But if they have more 6th graders, for example, they will split that 6th grade class and then they'll do rotations with that other person to support 7th and 8th. Depends on who's enrolled at the time. Some students come to get caught up, like assistance with a particular unit or some standards, and then they might not need it anymore.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If there's anything else you'd like to know about milestones, how we're preparing, feel free to reach out. I'm always available. You can send an email or a call so that we can help you, help your student to make sure that they're ready for milestones. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Browder. And so one of the things, I just want to reiterate, especially to 8th grade parents, one of the things that Ms. Browder mentioned is an ugly truth in education. So I started this in '97. It was true then, and it's still, thank you, ma'am, and it's still true today. I know when I left Westlake. What your kids make on this milestone in the 8th grade will determine their placement in the 9th grade. Now, that placement could be for their benefit or their detriment. On the high school level, advanced teachers are so difficult to come by. So someone that can teach IB ELA or IB Math, IB History, those people are hard to come by. And one of the things that they like to do, like football coaches, is build their program. So if I'm an IB ELA teacher, I'm very well versed in my content. I love it. And that's going to cause kids to be more engaged because I'm a content expert. The 9th graders that I'm going to teach are going to be my future students. Does that make sense? So as a football coach, I'm not going to coach the 9th grade soccer team. I'm going to coach the 9th grade football team. So as an IB AP teacher, the kids that I'm going to want to teach in the 9th grade are going to be my future AP and IB students. Does that make sense? And how do they make, what's the #1 indicator? It's going to be that milestone score. All right? That's an ugly reality. That's an ugly reality, but that is what it is. We've served 2 schools. We serve Langston Hughes and we serve Westlake. I don't know much about Langston Hughes because I wasn't there. I do know they have way more kids graduate with associate's degree, and Westlake only had 1. But I do know Westlake had $37 million in scholarship, and a very small amount of that was athletics. Most of it is academic. When you go to, if your child goes to Westlake, and I can only prepare for Westlake because that bar is higher than Langston. So it doesn't matter to me where your child is going. We're preparing as if they're going to Westlake. If they go to Westlake, it's going to be 700 9th graders. We're only sending 60 to 80. Sandtown is only sending about 230. That balance is coming from Westminster, Woodward Academy, and all these private schools. Or they went up north, or they've been at KIPP, right? It has nothing, so go back to those 4 success criteria. Intelligence, we found, is about the same. What differed? Work ethic, craftsmanship, able to communicate with adults in the building, self-advocates. That becomes the difference maker in high school. It's the difference maker in life, really. But in high school, it kicks in. Now, that doesn't mean the parent doesn't need to come around. The parent still needs to be an advocate for their child. Your child probably needs you more in the 9th grade more than they ever needed you. But in high school, that 9th grade year, if you get teacher A, when you write your letter for college in your junior or senior, early senior year, you're going to have the writing ability that you need, that they're going to be looking at. If you get teacher B, it's kind of like a crapshoot. And that's unfortunate. And so when I first came to Westlake, I went to the Board of Regents at the UGA with the principal, now superintendent, Marietta City Schools, Dr. Rivera. And they showed us the table. So your application gets on the table with how they accept students. It gets on the table. That's fine, SAT, test score. And the first thing they do is look at teacher recommendations. If the teachers don't have anything good to say about your child, your thing stays right there. So it has to make it all the way to the acceptance box. And so they look at teacher recommendation. They have a team that reads your child's, the essay you fill out on your application. They have a team read that. And then they look at your extracurricular. Then they look at what type of courses did you take. Right? And that's when I learned taking accelerated classes don't matter. Honors and all that stuff is either AP, IB, or dual enrollment. Whether it's accelerated or not, it's just for Facebook. My child takes 3 accelerated classes. but it weighs nothing. Also in Fulton County, they give a +7. If you take honors and accelerated, they collapse that down, they take those 7 points away, and they pull that true grade. And then it just works its way down that table. But to move down that table, recommendations in your child's letter. And the way they write that letter tells them more than what the transcript tells them. Right? Are they an effective communicator? Are they involved in many activities? And what them teachers say, sometimes they're specific. I want your 9th grade ELA, your 11th grade ELA teacher. Right? So when you have those conversations with your 8th grader, they're interviewing for college first day of school. Right? Because people are not going to put a lie down and sign their name on it. All right? So we always tell the football players, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. You don't have to be right. You just got to be smarter than the situation. If the teacher said you threw the paper, you didn't throw the paper, pick the paper up, put it in the trash, straighten the desk out on your way out, tell the teacher you apologize and keep it moving. Right? That worked for us. When I was a football coach, every senior I ever coached signed a scholarship. No kid I coached didn't sign a full scholarship. So that worked for them, and it works. So that's just it for high school. I can't fix it, but that's an ugly reality. Yes, ma'am.
Just to go back, you talked about, because the science and social studies doesn't count for promotion, but it does make a difference as far as the classes you may be able to take.
Yeah.
My perception, just looking at science and social studies GMAS schools across this south part of the county, my concern is that science and social studies aren't really given enough content. And the reason why I'm saying that is because having 5th grade come to 6th grade, the GMAS scores, it was developing. But the reality is, it's like, I mean, me personally, and this just may be my antiquated mindset, but ELA, social studies builds on ELA because it's content. It's about understanding history. I was here helping to do the spelling bee, and I looked at their faces. A lot of their words, the words that were coming to them, like I said, these are brightest and bright, and you're doing that one. A lot of the words that were coming to them, I saw the question mark in their head because all they could spell the word, they didn't know the definition, and I saw that. And so some of that stuff, and like I said, I know this is probably a big picture issue, some of that stuff relates to social studies about experiences that you're learning about, that when I read this, something as basic as I read an article where they were talking about rugby. Kid had no idea what rugby is, but for the kid that does know rugby, when they're reading it,
They're going to get it right.
it makes sense to them. For the kid, you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm not even sure what rugby is. And I say that to say that, some of these ones and twos that are generated on the milestones of science and social studies is because I don't think there's enough emphasis on science and social studies, being that, because I know you blocked it off because the focus is always ELA and math, but social studies will impact ELA.
Yes, ma'am.
Math will impact
Science.
Science
will impact math.
Math. So like I said, and I know this is district-wide strategy, but so my thing is, if there's a kid that potentially could be in an AP course for social studies, but if they're not getting that content, is it fair?
Right.
To have so much weight on that particular thing when the weight is not being placed in the school, in the coursework. That, like I said, my perception, looking at the data.
So your perception is actually accurate. So my years on the high school level, for those of y'all that have been around education, who do high school teachers blame for everything? No. Middle school.
Middle school, yeah.
The middle school didn't teach them anything. These kids crazy. Right? Here we don't even have bells. They go to high school, there's bells everywhere. They didn't prepare them. And so I was one of those people. What in the world is Sandtown and Camp Creek doing? Right? Then when I came here, what I talked to Mr. Robinson and Mr. Chester about is both parts. One part, what we had to do here, and we're still doing it, we're not there, is increasing the rigor. So example, I was in a social studies class yesterday, 7th grade social studies, and the kids were doing Bantu, Swahili, and Arab tribes, right? And I asked a question to the kids I was sitting at the table with, tell me, how did the Swahili come into being? And so they said, they're a tribe. I know that. How did they become, that's not an original African tribe. How did that happen? And kids, they won't just say, I don't know. Right? They're just gonna keep spitting out answers. And they use words to make it sound, well, basically, no, that's wrong, sir. So I let them, ravel with it. And so then the teacher was like, they took offense. Well, that's not what the standard asked us to teach. The standard didn't ask them to teach that. So I said, well, okay, don't worry about the answer. What's the religion? Islam. What are the 5 pillars of Islam? They believe in Muhammad. And that's one, that's a 0.5 of, that's half of one of the pillars. So we go, and the teacher's like, we don't have to teach all that.
So that's the problem.
So let me stop. So early in the year, and this is a funny business education. Early in the year, I told the 6th and 7th grade social studies teachers that we're gonna look at doing PBL. That's project-based learning. The reason for that is to teach the research component, and instead of trying to go like wide on the curriculum, we may pick something that can encompass a lot and go deep, right? And so you may look at religions that sprung off of Abraham, and we can teach our whole 7th grade curriculum off of that. But I have to develop the teachers into that, and the best way to develop the teachers in that is put them in a situation where now they see why they need to teach more.
So is that
Right, so the standard is the minimum.
big brush of projects come through?
No, they still trying to figure. I haven't trained them on it yet.
Okay.
So the standard, and it's hard for some teachers to get to this point. The standards are just the minimum speed limit, right? There's no max. Right, your kids could visit a mosque. Your kids can go out to Conyers and visit the monastery. You go to a synagogue. You can hear from the people. They don't just have to take your notes and then write down the 3 religions from Abraham was Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. But that's what the standard is. And so we have to get to a point, and we're not there yet, right? I just want y'all to remember now, we just coming from 57 2 years ago. Old habits die hard. So right now, we're still just learning to become a school. When we hit that 84 to 86, we can say, all right, we're a real school. Once we hit the B range, I think that's when you say we're a school. But after that, you have to become an institution of learning, right? And that's a different mindset for teachers. Because it's easy to just come in, complete that worksheet, I'll check it next week, right? That's the easy part. And that's not just here, that's everywhere. That's at Westlake, as great as Westlake is, right? But to change that mindset, unfortunately, it's not a light switch. It takes time, and it takes support along the way. So the first time 6th and 7th grade go PBL, and they learning how to teach kids how to do research, research is new. So it's a lot different teaching an 11-year-old how to go do research versus a college student. And a lot of teachers didn't probably do research to their 11th, 12th grade year. Remember back in the day they made us write the research papers, and I mean that's the business. And as we evolved into the 21st century, my job and district support job is to get teachers to that point, right? And unfortunately, it takes training. And the mindset, when I talked about managing up and managing down, my superiors were seeing the thing of training would be August 1st on PBL. And I come in March, and if your PBL is not right, I'm going to leave you a nasty little note, and you'll take the next 2 days off because you're looking for a new job.
Oh, I mean, that's
Right?
reality.
That's reality.
Yeah.
What it should look like, so one of the things we're working on, I'm kind of jumping around. What it should look like is what we're going to do next year. We have a problem with in our special ed collaborative classes. So if we're teachers, I'm just say the general ed teacher, she's a special ed teacher, it's different. It's 6 models at which we're supposed to be teaching. One could be parallel teaching, right? So we have y'all like on this table, and we're coming around and we're teaching the same thing to all kids. Right now, we have to change the mindset of, you got your kids, I got my kids there in the same room. It's not that. These are our kids. Everything we teaching together. So a parent don't need to talk to me about a child, they need to talk to us because they're all ours. And so since that's not the mindset, we have, can you take your kids out of here because they misbehaving? Right? And I'm going to teach mine. Mine misbehaving too, but I just feel better. I can push the blame on you. And what we have next year is we have Dr. LaVoule come in, and she's a consultant. And she's first going to train on the 6 different models. And then she'll go into the PLCs and work with the teachers. Which model do you use for this lesson? She'll come in and observe them doing it, give them feedback, coach them along the way, and that's going to happen from August to May. Right? And so we're going to see a little return that year. The next year, because in education, people learn through reflection. So when it's all said and done, they say, man, we should have did it this way. If we would fix this, we'll get better. And so that second year, we'll bring Dr. LaVoule back again, and she'll coach us through 2 years of that. And hopefully we can change the mindset. But if your child's in the 7th grade, they gone. Or 8th grade, they're gone. And so one of the things I promised when I took this job, I'm never going to just tell you a lie. There's some things that we do very well, right? We try to we want these kids to really enjoy this experience at Camp Creek as much as possible. The love for learning, the love for being in school. But there's some things, there's a reason the school was an F for so long. And that's a spiritual thing. And that's the spirit of the adults in the building. And unfortunately, spirits don't change like that. Some of y'all was in church one day, you had snot flying and tears flying. You went up to the altar, you laid it all down, and Monday you went right back to your old self, right? It's the same thing in this business.
And I think it also reflects on what you're saying in terms of retention, because whatever you're going to do from August to May, and then the doctor comes back the following year, if you don't have the same teachers.
Yeah. And we're fortunate with retention, unless I have a conversation, right? We're fortunate, but that could always be an issue. And we have a lot of teachers, especially on our general ed side, that I think I might have them one more year, and they should be promoted, right? I don't want people just to retire, right? If people have aspirations, my job is to prepare them to move on. That's why we don't have a bookkeeper right now. My job is to prepare people to get promoted. I owe that to them as their principal. And so we got to create a system that anyone can plug into. But in education, you got to have the right people. It's just not possible without the right person.
To piggyback on what the lady here said, as
Ms.
far
Harris.
as yes.
Harris.
Ms. Harris, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's several things, and you know me very well, but, you know, even coming from elementary, like I was talking to a couple of people in here, you know, we had junior high, but when I was in school, you went K through 7, 8th through 12th grade. That was it. You didn't have all this in between middle. It was like a couple of middle schools, but in the area we were, it was straight elementary high school. But so in elementary school, my oldest daughter, who's an 8th grader now, you know, when they're tested, okay, they say, let's just throw tag in there. And you teaching parents or telling parents from kindergarten or on up elementary, okay, they're going to be on this pathway all the way to high school. You know, stuff changes. Then you get to middle school, and it's like, it's a different thing. And I've had several concerns about the test, and I feel like they're tested to death, that they're not learning enough. I mean, they're so stressed out, and I'm like, why you keep coming home with a 50 on this stuff? Mama, it's 2 questions. I mean, I got one right, the other one wrong. I'm like, you're not giving them a whole lot of room to make an error. And I'm like, why are they being tested so much? Well, that's the South. North don't do all this testing. I've heard it from several people. They do not test as much as the South. The rigorous stuff that we have down here, they're not doing it up there. Their grades and school scores reflect that, so they don't have to test them to death. So they spend more time on the learning in class and the curriculum. Here, you teach them something, test. Oh, they made a 50, and you know it's 50 F. You know, it's just, it's a lot. And I'm like, it's coming from the district. Why y'all giving them 2 questions? So I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm beating her to death in the brain, and she's tired. Mama, I'm trying, like, I got 1 wrong, I got a 50. It's 2 questions. You know, you can't go back and do that, so that's 40% of your grade. You know, you understand what I'm saying? It's just, it's a lot. And then you get here, and the reality is, and the ugly truth, they need to be scoring at least a 3 on the milestones in order not to be taking a lower class in high school. But every day they're being rushed to do a test, and it's not like they're absorbing or retaining anything they're learning, because it's all based on, we need to do this for the test. Like, you shouldn't be teaching to the test. You should be teaching for them to retain and understand what you're teaching them every day, not just for the test. Oh, we've already did all the standards, so now we're just focusing on milestones. I don't understand that.
Yeah, and so what you said is an ugly reality is an ugly reality, right? So we have to, it's our brand. That grade is our brand, right? And so we could do a lot. We can have peeps and breaks every week. We do a lot of great things and connections that other schools don't do, right? We can do all these things. That grade come out of 57,
Yeah.
it's for naught, right? And so part of us, we have the business of business. Unfortunately for us versus North, we're gonna have 30% of our kids come in reading 2-3 grade levels behind or more, right? That's a reality that's gonna come through our door. And so we have to focus on catching them up. Now, the Georgia Milestones is not an unfair test. So it's not like how it was when we were growing up here about these culturally biased tests.
Well, we didn't have milestones. We had ITBS, BST, and we had Georgia graduation tests when I graduated from high
Right.
school. Then 95, started the regular. Now they don't even do the Georgia graduation test. It's an exit exam, which is
Yeah.
fine. I'd rather do the exit exam than the GGT. But it's even going back to the science fair and social studies, just what Miss Harris said. When I went up there with my daughter in 6th grade for the science fair, the stuff that they were coming out from the north, I'm like, the little stuff we were doing made it look like little peanuts. And I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, but he got to look too. In the same school, we had 2 kids run first place and 1 win second place last year.
Right, and even social studies, like a couple of kids in 8th grade wanted to do it. We never got anything based on,
Yeah.
them doing it. So they didn't even participate in the social studies
Yeah.
project, which she really wanted to do it. But nothing, so that's another thing fell to the wayside. When I was in school, we did a lot of projects. It was very intent. I mean, you enjoyed doing it. It was a big thing.
So guys, I want y'all to remember this now. When we was in high school, when was that?
We ain't that old.
No, let me finish. Let me get my thought all the way out before you come back on it.
In the 90s.
That prepared us for an economy that was predictable, right? So Generation Z, that's the kids we have now, were born with a smartphone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No one would have predicted when you was looking at your child through the window in the little carrier that Uber was going to be the #1 taxi company and don't own a vehicle.
Yeah.
Or that Airbnb was going to be the #1 hotel chain and don't own any properties. What's out there now, what they're going to walk into, we don't know. What we do know is you have to pass some type of assessment in this professional world. And unfortunately, on Southside schools, we've taught our kids it's okay to say, I'm not a good test taker. It's not okay to, in the assessments, assessing the curriculum. Now, the reason why it falls hard on Southside schools is because Southside schools were not doing a good job teaching,
Right.
right? It was a lot of sit down, shut your mouth, put your phone up, right? I'm not going to use my brain to help me think how you can use your phone to connect to my lesson. I refuse to do that. I can got a copy machine. I can make a bunch of these, and I need you to sit quietly for 90 minutes and turn these in. I may or may not grade them, and that's how we went to school.
Yeah.
Orderly, do your worksheets. We're going to give you a grade for a notebook check. That's not a standard, right? Define the words out the back of the book. Now, I'm not saying those are bad practices, but kids have to be, we have to assess for learning. So we call it test. The true word is an assessment. What from today's lesson did the kids capture? From the week, we have 5 days in a week. We have to assess those kids every week. Did they capture what they were supposed to learn? For me as a principal, I have all that data and illuminate so I can say, why your kids performing at this point, your kids performing like this. So on Monday when we in PLC, that is the conversation. Something's not, y'all are planning together, but it's not being delivered the same. was not having the same impact on your students. Because now the other side, I went to Archer Mill. So Archer Mill is the number 12 school in the state of Georgia, middle school. Right next to Archer Mill, somebody's house looked like a little mini mall. And so I'm thinking I'm about to walk in this school and see some wham bam, right? So in their data room, on their wall says the top reasons students aren't learning. So they got these 6, 7 reasons. First one was they don't care, they're not engaged. Student apathy. It's number 12 school in the state. Archer Mill up north. The next one says behavior. Student behavior is off the chain. So I happen to be walking down one of their halls, little kids huffing, oh, they about to. And that teacher's calling for security. I asked the guy, I said, man, y'all going to class or y'all going to fight? They didn't know who I was. I was suited booted plus a black guy. They looked at me. Sir, we're going to go to class? To them, that was just like the worst event in history. Right? They're not going to have this week alone. We've done a DFAX referral on a little girl who's raped by her boyfriend, who's sleeping in a lawn chair in a roach-infested house that reeks of urine. We have several kids that come in here every day that need to take a shower. Right? We give every kid free breakfast because every kid needs that breakfast. Right? And we see kids putting apples and everything in their pocket to sneak out the cafeteria. That ain't up north. Right? And so it's a lot different when you just have exposure, like she was talking about rugby. Like exposure to common things is a lot different. When I first came here, I would go to some Sundays in some of our more underprivileged neighborhoods, and I would just go sit up, just see if they could talk. You know, parents come out and talk to me. I would see people come home with groceries. A lot of our kids aren't eating salmon and broccoli.
That's right.
Right? The only vegetable they getting is vegetable flavored noodles. Right? There's nobody cook sauteing no spinach at the house, and you better eat it. No Brussels sprouts. Like some of that stuff don't exist in our neighborhoods. And now, some of the kids are still the best kids on earth. They're gonna be yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. They're gonna be polite. You need some help with that? They're not coming in, woe is me, my life is so hard. Even the kids that we're doing DFAX referrals on aren't saying, my life is hard. Right? That ain't up north. The reason why I first started, and y'all may not catch this stuff, when I first came and I started implementing weekly assessments, it was 9 murders in this span. 12 murders in this, just like when I measured from the end of my first year here, that first semester to the end, it was 12 murders in this South Fulton area. 9 of them were in Camp Creek's area. 2 neighborhoods I went to on the weekend, I was like, no wonder these kids ain't learning. I guarantee nobody's saying, get on out ready. Let me see your homework. Right? And so sometimes when you know better, you do better. And sometimes some kids have. We have these situations where these girls are jealous of other girls, and it's like back and forth on Instagram, and the other parents just want us to throw the other kids away. And we try to explain, we really all these kids have, and they just met us. Right? They're a protector, and here goes go to see this person, they're gonna do your hair on the weekend. You know, it's so much that happens behind the scenes to help kids just cope with the right now. That Camp Creek thrived on that. Now, I didn't thrive on that. Camp Creek thrived on, y'all don't have no food at home, I'm gonna buy you some groceries, I'm gonna put it in a backpack, won't nobody know, with some soap and water. Like, that's Camp Creek's culture, all that's behind the scene. So when I first came, I said, you guys are too sympathetic. I need you all to be empathetic. Understand your situation is bad, and I want to help you with it. But understand this, you got to pass tests in life. Because people been sympathetic to them forever. And so the assessments, they won't go away, but we need them. Right? Now, do we need to do more around the research and project-based learning? Yeah. So that's why we had a partnership with like Coca-Cola coming in here, the Ideal Farm coming in, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. They'll do a program here with drones. Like, we're bringing things in, but it's no light switch. I was mad. I had the horns in the tail yesterday. I had a partnership where they're going to give us 200 plus free tickets to the Human Rights Museum downtown. That ties into Georgia Studies. When I asked Lane, I said, Lane, what's the, how many, I got the buses coming, how many, what's the bus order and all this, right, the rosters? We only got 32 people, but only 17 paid. It's $5.
Well, because it says on there it's a donation. So
It's but they didn't even submit the permission slip, so I had to tell them, we'll refund the 17.
I was like, what grade was that?
what?
8th grade.
Like,
We have to go because I've shook hands with these people saying, I'm going to send our kids to your program. They've got things, they got things lined up for Camp Creek. And so that's why the push yesterday, I was like, y'all send all them permission slips home and get them back. Those kids, everybody has to go. Because when we have these partnerships, if we don't do our part, it's more than just giving us chicken wings and T-shirts. You know what I mean?
So the
Whole 8th grade has to go.
I mean, I've been sent it in, but I didn't know.
But that's some of our battles. Yes, ma'am.
Just to kind of, just to unpack a lot of what you're saying, I think what she was saying is that, yeah, this is Generation Z, and we don't know what their face, but I do know there are some foundational things. I'm a big Maslow fan. I just know there are some foundational things that have to be met, and so I look at some of the things that we're doing as far as like, testing on computers is great, but I do know from what research has shown that there's a connection from writing and what you see and what you write. So I think, and like even with my kid, he will, like, because of computer games, anything that's on the computer is a game in his mind. So he's kind of like He's been given test-taking strategies. He won't read stuff all the way through. So therefore, he's picking up certain things, and out of those 2 questions, we'll get something wrong. And I get that same thing. It was only 2 questions. That's why it's a 50. And trying to do that. So I think there's some, although finding that bridge to use the foundational skills that we were given because we didn't have an option, but it makes a difference. And then as far as, and understand that you have done a phenomenal job as far as bringing partnerships in, but you got kids that are between 11 and 13. They are not the best communicators. Like I said, I mean, one of the things that I have a challenge with is communication. If you feed me information, I don't have as many questions. And it's okay if I have them, but like permission slips, I've seen permission slips in bags, like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm checking this bag. Yeah, I may check it every other day. It's a permission slip. Oh, I need to go on OSP and, and send money in. And it's just because of the fact that today was the day I did a book bag check. He doesn't tell me unless it's something that he really, really, really wants to go to, and so, and I say that to say this, that, the partnership that you got, it was like, kids, they just put stuff in these folders, and even with the bags that you provided them, like, I think now, Kyle, just as somebody's like done like hole punching to put stuff in each section, because I look at it and I'm just like, I can't tell what you're doing. And then people tell me like, well, it's online, and I mean, like, he had a project one day, and he had a low grade. I'm like, is he not getting it or he's missing a grade? He was missing a grade. And he kept telling me it was a project. I said, go on the computer and show it to me. The project was sitting in the file. And I just rolled my eyes and I was like, email and tell her it's right there. So this grade has set up there because the teacher didn't go back in there to see it. So I mean, it's just difficult. Like I said, not to say that everything has to be on paper, but the problem is, like, I look at his folder, I look at his notebook, and I can't tell what's going on. And so for me, it's a problem because I try to reinforce what's going on. I try to, give some little, just give some information. But I look at his folder, I look at his notebook. Like science, the science teacher, the math teacher, I'm fine. But usually those who are, and that's how my brain works, I'm organized. For those that are a little bit more abstract, I'm trying to get it. If I can't get it, like, is he getting it?
Right.
So, I mean, that's
fair. And I wasn't disclaiming anything that she was saying. And it just, like, some of our teachers are even making kids, I know Mr. Gibson and Ms. Lane, they're saying that the kids do better just taking the test on paper and then putting their answers on the computer. And so when we're off the 13th, 16th, we have like PD within the building, we'll share best practices. But I just discovered that maybe 2 weeks with them when they said And they were sneaking doing it. So they thought they were sneaking. It's fine with me when you try. But in this business, people are kind of afraid to share what they're doing because they may not be allowable, for lack of a better word. So they kind of sneak and do what's best for their kids, and then it comes out by happenstance. And they be like, hey, that's a good idea, we should all be doing. Something as simple as taking it on paper and doing it on a computer.
I just wanted to piggyback what you were saying about the partnership and the Center for Human Rights and Civil Rights. Jeremiah brought home the permission slip last night. So Ms. Lang said, you got to sign it and you have to chaperone. Well, we know my grandson has special needs. And so setting him up for field trips and things like that can be out of character for him, so I'm not really 100% on board with that. So what I said to Jeremiah, and had I known what it meant to you, what it meant to the school, and what your initiatives were, I would have been able to support maybe getting you some chaperones, getting somebody to be there so Jeremiah can have the experience again. Jeremiah has been to the center. And we've talked about it. He had a very positive experience, and he can tell you what happened. He can tell you about the Freedom Riders, all of that. His great-grandfather was the Freedom Rider. So to bring the permission slip home last night, he and I, we sat down and we talked about it, and it's like, no, Grandma's not signing it. You're not going. Because I can't support his going, and then
I got
everything
that.
is all scattered for him, and he ended up now with a bad experience. He ends up getting in-house suspension, all those things. So had I known, and I sat in an IEP meeting last week, I would have been able to share that again with Ms. Lang and say why he's not going. But I think it's honorable in terms of what you're attempting to do and how you're attempting to do it. There has to be more open communication for these kids who have special needs. And I say it all the time. Jeremiah's not the only kid here with those special needs.
Yeah.
So, but I oftentimes feel like that. But I say all that to say I belong to a support group, Grandparents Raising Grandchildren. I hope that if there's a group of grandparents here who are raising grandchildren, Dunbar just collaborated with my Grandparents Raising Grandchildren group. I'm not the founder of it. I don't have anything to do with its concept and all that. And so she's trying to go into schools and be that support system and have resources available, open communication and ways of being able to talk about kids who don't have what they may need, because some of us look better than others, but in terms of emotional needs, it might be food, it might be anything, but just even understanding, because when you said the year that you graduated from high school, I graduated in 1970.
Oh, I wouldn't even
So
know.
I was in high school.
I just think I was born in 74.
Yeah, 76. I wasn't even proud of it.
But I raised children also, and they graduated from high school, and I was a single mom and very successful. My daughter went to Georgetown Law School and barred in New York and New Jersey first time she took the test. So I'm a proponent of education, and I think it's real important. And as African Americans, I think it's real important that we support our children because they are our future. And so if there are setbacks and if there are things we don't understand, and there's technology and all this other stuff, and the spirit world and all that other stuff that's going on, we gotta have more forums like this. We gotta start talking to each other. What you're doing is phenomenal.
people have
I
to show
support
up.
you 100%.
So, you know, a lot of our families working today now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know, and I talk about you all the time and what's happening here in
Well, that's good
Kansas
you're
City.
having one in the evening, too. Yeah.
So, you know, I just hope that, you know, you continue to do what you're doing here in Southwest. Because I live up the street, I'm not going anywhere.
So another thing is, a lot of people, unfortunately, I mean, we have phones, but some people don't have access to email. So this forum comes across on emails. A lot of people don't read that. Unfortunately, most of us probably do, because it's business world. My job, you have to
Read
read
email.
email. That's your communication. There's no exceptions if you don't get it. But
Yeah.
some literature needs to come home paper form. I know Ms. Davis is very good with sending out stuff to the parents. But maybe paper need to come home and say, hey, Mr. Adams doing a forum, you know, at the school today. Because, you know, you can
I get it.
delete an email
I get
and
it.
forget and be
I
like,
like
what
your
day
calls.
was it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what
So-
it's
And-
like, my husband gets the calls and he'll let me know. He go, did you see? He said that this was coming home or this was going on. I'm like, yeah, I saw the email. So
And
I know we
our
should
black,
email and
my
he's the call.
blackboard, everything on my login has been messed up. They just got repaired yesterday.
Okay.
So I didn't do a call out this
Right,
weekend,
yeah.
and I didn't do a call out the weekend before.
Yeah.
And so I discovered it last weekend that I couldn't access Blackboard. I just thought it was a home issue. So, because sometimes you have to be on this server to access certain things. But then when I came to school, I couldn't get on. And principal meeting up north, it just got fixed Monday. So my communication will pick back up with an explanation of it.
That's just helpful. I like the calls.
Yeah.
I don't like just the emails. I think the calls and the emails, I get enough paper between an elementary kid and my middle schooler. But just to go into the curriculum.
Are you taking notes on this, Ms. Davis? You taking notes on this? Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Davis makes sure she catch me too when she sees me at the school. So, but I'm just curious. I know again it's probably more high level, but what other curriculums or school systems do you look at in Fulton County that is not a part of Fulton County? I am not a supporter of Fulton County schools at all. I did not grow up in Georgia. I'm a Northern Virginia girl.
Okay. I know how y'all schools are.
Yes, my high school has been in the top 50
Forever.
since before I was even at that high school. But it's just, I think about middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school, and I'm like, I don't understand why here, it just baffles me. We talk about ELA is so important in writing and the projects, but I don't get why when the end of the year hits, there is no reading program that is a part of the school system. Since my kids are little, I've always gone to the library or, Scholastic Books does the program. I've gone places to just keep my kids going during the summertime.
Right.
But I grew up on that basis. Well, my mom just made me read every week, and that's why I have a hate-love relationship with reading. But my schools, it was in middle school, it was you got to read 2 books off this list. Whichever 2 books you pick, that's fine. But that first week of school, by the end of that week, you had a paper due and you had a project due, whether it was a diorama, a poster board, a plot line, whatever. But it kept you in that mindset that, oh, I can't just play and run and get away with it. And the schools didn't supply it. You went to the library and you got your books, and it kept kids in the libraries and in places. And I know around here everybody can't get to the library, but they can get a lot of these books online. A lot of these things are downloadable for free, and I know everybody doesn't have that. But I just feel like there's got to be something and more. I don't understand how you do a project in social studies. We just did one, but your ELA teacher doesn't read the paper that you had to read. I grew up that your science project didn't just go to your paper. You turned it in to your English teacher, but the English teacher also gave it to the science teacher. The science teacher read, did your facts line up with what you had on this poster board? Because you can't present if everything was on there. And trust me, did so many projects. I did a project and got an A on it in science, and I never did the project. I got an A on the paper, and I did a whole project on how you can do a project without doing a project. That was my whole thing. I got my butt whipped, but that's what I did. But I just don't, it just seems like some things, maybe in my mind, I feel like it should be so much more simplified.
It should be.
Than the way that it seems that it's connected here. I get no communication from certain teachers. Some teachers, I feel like, God dog, you call me every freaking week about my child. And it's not just my child. I got a boy that sits by my child, and he is literally sexually harassing her and the other girls.
It's time for me to go.
It is all day. And I'm like, she's not focusing because she's hearing this crap in the background, and then when she turn around and tell the kid, look, shut up already, she's the one I'm getting a call about. And I'm like, I'm not even entertaining this teacher, because I'm like, I know the dynamics that's going on in your classroom. I know the dynamics that math is facing. And that's why I asked about who teaches the after day program, because sometimes that teacher that you're with all day may not be the one that gets that breakthrough. I need her.
That's true.
Getting it through another teacher or something. We had great success last year with Miss Brock. She just teaches in a way that it just worked for her. I just don't know that math has been it's just a lot. It's just a lot. I haven't been able to be here as much as I normally would this school year, but I am on the phone and I am on the emails, but I just see after 6th grade, I got a lot of communication. 7th grade communication is already dropped in half. Not to mention, even within, I want to get to these courses here because my child has been stuck with PE since she came and Spanish. The only thing that changed was she was put into Abbott. But Spanish is now becoming my headache because she's done everything in that curriculum and it's just being retaught. She's like, Mommy, I went to class 20 minutes late. I helped another teacher set up for their next class. Went in the class, took the test, made an A on the test. But the Spanish teacher upset with her because she made the A on the test, but she wasn't there the first 20 minutes. That's not my child's fault. I've asked 3 times for her to be moved out the class, did the paperwork in the beginning of the school year. The only plus I can tell her is, well, you're going to get your high school credit, baby. That's the only way I can sell it to her to stay in this. I just need... I feel like there's just not support for the kids who are not accelerated in these school systems. And I say that because I have an elementary school child who is accelerated in the tag program, and they're testing the heck out of her, and she coming home breaking out in hives. Because they're like, we need you to make them 4s again this year. You got it. I tell her, don't you stress about them tests, and I don't tell them the teachers, leave her alone. I need some balance. And I know I just spit out a whole bunch of stuff, but this is just where my mind is because I get the testing. I'm not all about testing, and now I want a test taker. My 7th grader is not a test taker. She truly is not. I've had her tested on that. We just need, I just feel like it's got to be some better ways because I'm like, she'll do great on ELA, but I don't see the support for math.
So let me circle back to, I got 3 things I think
I know
from
you.
you.
Look, I'm sorry. When you finish that, then she got a question.
Okay.
I know you're saying.
So first question is who do we look at? So the schools that I visit mostly are Marietta City. They have a 7th, 8th grade. The reason why I visit
And that's
them,
terrible over there. I got a friend whose child is over there.
well, you know, every school is what you make it, right? They have a lot of things around that I like as far as the feel of the school. As far as inside the instruction, inside the classroom, I think we do a better job, right? But it's some feel-good things of the school. So not only do I want kids to pass tests, I want them to enjoy. Dr. Newbold, who's now over the STEM school, he said something years ago. He was like, kids only have one time to be in the 7th grade. They only have one time to be in the 6th grade. So I want the feeling. I want this to be a good memory for them, right? So I look at Marietta City because of that. Then I look at elite scholars in Clayton County. Now, that's the direction we're moving in instructional-wise,
Yeah,
right? They do a phenomenal job. They the #1 school in the state.
they are.
They all black, and it's in Clayton County.
I got 2 cousins graduated from there. They are
Elite scholars.
Okay.
They made the news earlier because
That
a
little
young
girl
lady
that
died.
passed away, the
Basketball player.
Black girl. You probably didn't hear it.
Yeah. But elite scholars, they do a phenomenal job. And so even like the PBL idea, it's not necessarily mine, right? But because I visit other schools, I can see what they're doing, what's going to fit here. Like everything they do at the Archery Mill, and I go to Archery Mill because they're consistently high, right? So how do we provide a system that's consistently high performing and they do recess, right? Kids are able to have some free time and still perform at a high level.
And that's
So,
good.
so those are the 3 schools that I look at on a consistent basis. And not everything from all 3 schools fit here, but I can pull from what they're some of the best practice is not defined by a zip code, right? And so that's the first part of your question. Who do we look at? Those are the 3 schools we look at. The second part is just unfortunate. 7th grade, we're stinking it up this year, right? It's some teams. So just let me paint this picture for y'all non-7th grade. So you heard me say we lost 2 math teachers, right? Then I had a ELA teacher whose mom had Alzheimer's. And one day she was slated to stay, she wanted to stay all the way through April. Her mom, she came in my office crying one day, Mr. Adams, my mom is on Candler Road. They live down here. Her mama done got somebody to give her a ride to church, and they all the way out there at on County Road at a church. That's not having church in the middle of the day.
And it's terrible.
And anybody you love, you don't want them lost on County Road. Right? Not on that side of County Road. So it was just too much. And I was breaking all kind of rules. I was like, look, just put your mom as a volunteer and let her come here. Just so she can keep an eye on the mom. Because how can you teach
Yeah,
and you worried about your mama?
yeah.
Right? And then your mama, you know, when you're dealing with people with that, they don't really know. They don't know that they were just lost and
No,
had
they
you
don't.
scared.
They
And then when she went to County Road, she didn't find her. The police couldn't find her. She just went home to catch her breath, and somebody, good person, pulled up. Anyway, she retired. She just couldn't do it. It's just too much. She retired. Then on the social studies side, it don't stop there.
'Cause it's
My
like-
social studies teacher is not a congressman, on the General Assembly. Now, when I hired him, I saw the experience had a start and a begin time for being a state rep. So what better person you want teaching social studies than a state representative, right? It wasn't a stop time. So right now he's out because General Assembly's in session. So imagine that, retired teacher, separated math teacher, General Assembly, he has to perform his civic duty.
And one promotion.
And then, but for that team of kids,
Yeah, it's a lot. They done lost every subject.
no, they lost everything. And I promise you, I did not see that coming. He tells me in December, I hear you always telling people that I used to be a state representative. I still am. And we go in session in January. What? It's December. We get ready for Christmas break. So I called HR. HR said, what? Why do we hire him?
Exactly.
I said, well, we can't discriminate on that. Plus, look at his resume. It doesn't say he's still. So what is was they call unprecedented. We as Fulton County haven't been down this road. So he has to be off. We can't hire a teacher because he still has his job. Now, when I tell you I've learned a whole lot this year, right? That shortcomings can be forced upon you or you can just have them. But the sad part of it is, this is kids' only time to be in the 7th grade. All right, and so then the third thing you asked was about, I took it as relevant learning. Learning from the moment, learning how to be a learner, like with the research and things. That's what PBL lends to. PBL would address, so I'm not saying your point is not valid, it's very valid. That's why I want to bring in PBL. And to me, to get to your fourth thing that I heard you mention, we'll talk about this after y'all do y'all ask. This is the part of the school I care about this side, but this is the side of the school that excites me. Because I know no other middle school is doing it, and I think this is what needed for the 21st century learner. And that's our connection courses. And the reason why I have all 8th grade or for high school credit, that's with the exception of Reed 180 and Abbott. If every kid leaves here with 2 high school credits, the bare minimum of 2 high school credits, you only need 5 to be a sophomore. You take 8 in the 9th grade. You're gonna be promoted. Now, for you all, that may not mean anything, but all my career has been in the high school prior to coming here. What happens to a 15-year-old, typically our boys, who at the end of his second year of high school has failed everything, or didn't pass 5 courses. His homeroom is not on the 10th grade hall. His homeroom is on the 9th grade hall. So is he gonna go to the 9th grade hall to pick up his new schedule?
Nope.
Nah, I'd rather be bad than dumb any day of the year. And that's what happens. They're not set up to make that transition. When they don't get out of the 9th grade that first year, they don't graduate. It don't matter what programs the schools try, they don't graduate. Now, my last years at Westlake, I was the phone call person. Because I can handle being cursed out, I can handle being blasted. Ms. Champion, unfortunately, your child did not receive enough credits. First thing Ms. Champion say, why you just not calling me? I haven't heard from no teachers, no counselors, right? And so I'm telling them they've already scheduled the DJ, the cookout facility. You know, they've already done everything. My first year at Westlake, I had 2 parents in my office crying on the floor. Because they found out from me a week before their kid wouldn't graduate. After everybody done bought their tickets to come. Now, of course, as great as Westlake is, it still took about 2 years after that to get the practice in place that we communicate all second semester with kids that may not graduate. And you think the teachers want to do that? The counselor didn't want to call no. They supposed to know what their kid doing. Right? It's an ugly reality. So yeah, I try to be an effective communicator. My system had me locked out for these 2 weekends. I'm back in, and the teachers, they send the weekly emails, but some do better than others on a weekly email.
I had a couple of,
Hold on, last thing. The sexual assault stuff, like, please email me. And like schedule change, Miss Browder's our schedule change person.
Yeah, I know, she's been working on it.
Just,
And it says drop for Spanish on
Your-
in her system.
your statement is, it's not that hard, it's true. All right? I promise you, you cannot get on my nerves by calling or
I
emailing
can't
me.
get an email back. I didn't email.
You email me?
No, I'm just proud of
No,
So,
email.
You
done
do,
seen my
you
child.
CC him in.
I have. And one, it just gets to the point, and that's
She
why I
don't.
say I have not been
And I
around
told her.
this
She don't
last few
Okay.
weeks because I had surgery, so I've been recouping for a month and a half. So now I'm like getting back into
Yourself.
everything 100%, and I'm like, what you mean you still in the Spanish class? Now the Spanish teacher get an attitude with you because when you've done it for a year and a half, she's reviewing the standards, like y'all said, to get ready, and she's like, okay, I did that.
Got it.
And I don't want it to get to the point where then she gets, flippant with the mouth, because she's gonna be like, she's gonna become her mama. She's gonna be like, I don't care, send me out of class.
Send me
and
an
that's what I
email.
don't want to take place.
Please send me an email, or what Ms. Champion said, if you
I
send the
promise you,
email
if
and
you
CC me on
him
me
in
on,
there, he'll get it.
I don't want, and more than likely, I'm gonna give you my phone number.
But that's what I think hasn't been addressed, is mental health issues and the psychosocial issues in the school, because, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you, we're talking about how you look at these other schools and what their standards are. I'd like to know how they handle mental health issues.
So
But you don't have to answer that.
okay, let me go to you, then I'll come back to you.
Absolutely.
I had a couple of points. Some I probably need to talk to you offline about. But one of them is, what is the process or what's the standard of inputting grades in the system? Because I have an issue with one teacher that will not put Brooklyn's grades in the system. And I'm one of these parents that I'm anal about what her grades are, because that determines if she's gonna go somewhere this weekend or not.
Let me answer that question. So in the communication that the teacher sends out, and that's 7th grade, they send out a newsletter, it should tell you what day of the week the grade book is going to be current.
Okay.
So the expectation is the teacher identify which day of the week will their grade book be current. Okay.
Well, this particular teacher does not follow that. She won't input her grades, and I'm sure you know Brooklyn is an A student. She'll not input the grades, so I'm logging in and I'm seeing Brooklyn has a D. So I'm upset and I'm going off on Brooklyn because I'm like, so you've been on the phone, but you got a D, like, and you're not a D student. So where's the disconnect?
Who's the teacher?
Miss Coleman.
Okay.
So she says, oh, I'll get to it. that's not good enough for me because this is now we're carrying on to, she and I had a conference because I was very upset about it because I'm like, I can't deal with that type of stress thinking that my daughter has a D and she doesn't. And when we speak, she says, oh, well, no, she doesn't have a D. I just haven't gotten around to inputting the grades. And I'm like, well, I need.
I can fix that.
Yeah, I need for the grades to be
Yeah.
input. So that was the first issue. And it's still not, you know, even though Brooklyn has an A, she has 100% in that class. But it's just the point that the grades aren't inputted
Got it.
in a timely manner. The second thing is I wanted to know, what is the standard of like rounding up? Or do you guys not allow the grades to be rounded up? Say, for example, Brooklyn had an 89 point, I forgot what it was, in English, and when you gave out the award, she didn't get the top award. She had an A in every other class, except for English. She has an 89 point something, and Ms. Small states that she doesn't round up. So I didn't know if this was some autonomy given to the teacher directly, or is that just a
It's just
school-wide standard?
Infinite Campus. So if it's a 89.4 or below, it's gonna stay 89.
Yeah.
If it's 89.5 or above, it goes up. And so earlier we talked about spirit. And so the sympathy versus empathy. In a lot of Southside schools, we do like to focus on the bottom. So what can I do to help her get from a 60 to a 70? And it's the same thing we had at Westlake. How do we help her with an 88 get to a 90? Never gets asked. Or how do I help her with a 78 get to an 80? Never gets asked. And so that's, in this game, since that cheating scandal in Atlanta, it's a lot of hands off with grades. And so it's more of a spiritual thing. How do we get people to consider helping all kids? Like a lot of effort goes into getting her from a 60 to a 70. Very little effort goes into getting her from a 78 to an 80. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's what we're working on. But because the law just don't allow me to put a whole lot of pressure on the teacher by the grade.
Okay, well, that's,
Now, inputting grades, that's their job.
I got that part.
Uh-huh.
However, as a parent who stresses A's in her household, that's a concern for me though, because if I'm doing my part, I hear a whole lot about the disconnect between home and school and how you need more parents involved. I'm a parent that's involved, and I can't speak for other people's household, but A's are important in my household, and that's just mandatory for me. I had Ms. Coleman tell me a C isn't a big deal. It's a very big deal in my home.
Yeah.
We don't come in our house with C's. My son graduated with honors from UCLA, and Brooklyn's gonna graduate from whatever college she chooses with honors, because that's the standard I set in my house. And for a teacher to tell me, parent, that a C isn't a big deal, I've had a problem. I stopped volunteering after that. You have not seen me back up here because I just don't like how certain stuff is going with these teachers, and I try not to make too big of a deal because I don't want to cause problems with somebody's jobs and stuff like that. But I'm just, it's something some conversations need to be had with Ms. Smalls and Ms. Coleman specifically. And the next point I was going to mention was, my kid, if she tells you she's sick, and I think this comes with paying attention to your students and knowing what type of personality the children have. My daughter isn't the type of kid that's gonna pretend like she's sick to go to the nurse's station, to go home. Like, that's just not Brooklyn. Brooklyn don't want problems for me, so Brooklyn's gonna come to school and do what she's told. Friday, I have an issue with her. Brooklyn got sick. She asked could she go to the nurse, and she told her no. Couldn't even let her get it out. Then she decides to take it upon herself to diagnose my daughter and tell her her need to go to the nurse's station isn't warranted because she suffers migraines and that's not how she treats it. So my concern was this: Ms. Smalls doesn't have a medical degree. I don't recall signing off on her to treat Brooklyn, so I feel like she needs to do what she does, which is get paid to teach Brooklyn English and not keep my kid from going to the nurse. Because what if Brooklyn had a serious health issue? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not her job to deny my kid medical, and the only reason she let her go is because Brooklyn knows. I told her I don't care who it is. If it's an emergency, you text me immediately. And she did, and when Smalls saw Brooklyn texting, that's when she pulls up some statement from you stating that you said, I think within 20 minutes of a class change, they're not allowed in the hallway, which you're not going to get any pushback from me about school rules. But if a child is sick and you know this is a child that is not a problem student, is doing what they're supposed to do, they express that they need to go to the nurse, who are you to deny them medical? I have a huge problem with that. So that's like, I'm not okay with that, with what happened Friday. I was very upset.
Got it. So that is my rule. First 20, because the building needs to settle, right?
I respect that, Mr. Adams. That's
And
the issue.
there is a protocol, and maybe I need to train better on it. If a kid needs to leave, even for the restroom, we have buttons. We have a dean for each grade level. So I'm in Miss Champion's class. I should have went to the bathroom during my break, but I was talking to my friends.
You know, everybody can't go to, Browder don't work the same.
So-
You don't.
So I'm in class. I need to go to the restroom. It's in the first 20 minutes. Now the teacher don't want to come see me. When I be like, listen, why kids leaving your class the first 20? Because one of the things I preach, don't be the crack of the dam, right? Because the kids are kids. Don't be the crack of the dam. We give processes for everything. But the process is, if there's an emergency or abnormal situation, press the button. The dean, for Mr. Bowens for 7th grade, has a great relationship with all the kids. The dean will come down and relieve you of the anomaly situation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so I just came down hard on the teachers about kids leaving that first 20 minutes. So I'm not going to say that's an excuse, but I am going to say when we meet next week on the 13th, I reiterate that using common sense within that 20 minutes, use your dean to help you.
Exactly.
Or your dean can call me and say, Ms. Adams, you know, there's a student down here that's sick. We're in the first 20 minutes. All right, y'all, you know, just use common sense. I think that's what you're saying.
That leads me to my next point about her. She, in turn, because Brooklyn left, because she saw her texting me, and I came up here immediately to come get my kid, because Brooklyn knows, do not call me and say you're sick unless you are really sick. There will be no phone the entire weekend. You know, just whatever rules I got set in my house are in place if you're calling me frivolously about you being sick. Smalls takes it upon herself to embarrass Brooklyn Monday in class. This is like the second time she's done this. The first, it was the beginning of the year about not standing for the pledge. She doesn't know our religious background. I don't have to stand if I don't want to. My daughter doesn't either. And she doesn't need to make an example or punish Brooklyn for doing so because it doesn't align with her beliefs. That was the first issue I had. I moved past that. But what you won't do for the second time this year is embarrass Brooklyn in a class asking her, so Brooklyn, did you turn in your homework? Mind you, Brooklyn left class early Friday, was not aware about homework, but because I raised Brooklyn to always be proactive, she called one of her friends to make sure she didn't miss anything in class, made sure she didn't homework, whatever was covered, and she had it taken care of, and Brooklyn told her, yes, I did. She said, sure you did. In class, so Brooklyn tells me everybody at the table is looking at her like, why is she singling you out? You know, so when she said, I'm gonna go see about that, pulls up the computer, calls out names of kids who have completed homework. Of course my daughter's name is on the list because Brooklyn does what she's supposed to do. She has to take her personal whatever out and be a teacher and instruct and treat my daughter exactly how she would treat any other kid. You can't do that because that's causing Brooklyn to, she doesn't even look forward to going to that class. Same thing with Miss Coleman. Those two teachers, I don't know what kind of issues they have with my daughter, or maybe it's a indirect, to me, I have no idea, but Brooklyn needs to come to Camp Creek and get treated the exact same that they would want someone to treat their kids. And I can see if Brooklyn was a bad child, I can see if she had disciplinary issues, whatever the case may be, then I could have a little bit more, you know, with the situation. Brooklyn got all A's, like, what more you want? She's not disruptive in class, and for you to single her out and do this, I just have a problem with it, and that's why I made sure I came here today to speak to you about it, because I just refuse to volunteer anymore until I start seeing some changes in how these teachers are treating my daughter.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll speak with her.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And why we celebrate Black History Month? That's the other thing.
So,
We see no Black History Month.
I mean, we got a Black History Museum. We didn't.
Here.
I mean, the teachers did it within the classes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Brooklyn was saying, she asked me, she said, I noticed we didn't do Black History Month there. I said, really? I said, I wonder why you didn't come with a paper or anything.
I mean, we didn't, we didn't,
I think
like,
I had to
over.
get used to that coming from elementary, like, you know, the programs they have as far
Yeah.
as parents come out and do
But
middle
they
school.
did Hispanic Heritage Week, So I figured,
Oh,
why you
yeah.
got
Yeah,
this
I mean,
every
we-
2 weeks, but not Black History Month? A month, like at least, she said she saw something maybe on the board in the hallway, and she said it was supposed to be a quiz bowl or something, I
Yeah.
don't recall.
And then they got a program tonight. That,
Yeah, but I just wasn't prepared, because coming from North Virginia at a predominantly white school, they celebrated Black History Month in middle school. And then I come here, predominantly black school, and it's like, you can hear nothing. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. So that's why I took it upon myself. Some of the kids that go to the school, I did them a Black History Month in our neighborhood, and I taught them Basquiat. Because I'm like, they're not learning nothing here from the feedback I got. So I'm like, I feel like that's important. If it's nationally recognized, it should be recognized in the schools too, especially in a black school. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm done now.
all right.
We were talking about promoting things here at the school. I know a lot of people are techie. I'm not a techie person, but I believe in promoting in the office. Because normally things that we do, I try to put a sign up in the office. And I noticed, from subbing, that's where you get the bulk of your parents. So I think anything that we do, we need to go back to some of the old-fashioned marketing. Put a sign in the office, because that's where you get the bulk of your parents. That little tray right there is nice, but people don't look down. They're looking at the receptionist when they come in. They don't really look down, so you need to put things where people can see it. Because when you're standing there waiting to be seen, you're going to just kind of glance around, you're going to read. So I think that's one way to promote things. In terms of trips, I've been, I volunteer sometimes. I used to go on the field trips. The field trips are great. It's great for exposing our kids. But we need to take it a step further. Okay, it's great to take the child to the Civil Rights Museum, but do they research it before they go? So that they know where they're going and what it's about? Do they write a paper when they come back? I mean, because otherwise it was just
a
time
3
out
day
of school.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. They just happen to be out of class. But it's not effective if you don't take it a step further to me. Research it before you go, right when you come back. So what did you learn? What did you see? Okay, what are you expecting to see when you go? What is
Well,
this
I
building
can speak
about?
on Ms. Lang. Ms. Lang is, she's a 8th grade team is phenomenal. I don't really have any issues. Ms. Lang does tie her work into their trips. So they are very well familiar with what's going to happen, what's going to go on, because they've been studying that. And so she does, I can speak on that. She does tie her classroom.
Well, that's
into
good.
that.
But some of
Yeah,
our
Mr.
things,
Gibson do
it's
too.
just like
So-
time out of school.
Yeah, so and a lot of them really, the 8th grade don't look forward to these trips because they already know they've been
It's
dealing
work.
with it in class.
Yeah.
So they like, oh, here we go again, some more work. To them, it's more work because it's very rigorous. I'm telling you, this 8th grade, she's up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
And yeah, they have a lot of work. A lot of
Yeah.
work.
Brooklyn will be ready next year.
Yeah,
Oh, she prepared?
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of work.
We're going to put it to the test.
A lot of work.
Prepared.
It's a lot of work. It's good, but it's a lot of work.
I don't think about it.
I mean, sometimes I'm just like, she got to take a brain break. You know, I've
And
had
so-
conversations with him about
Yeah.
one teacher. She ain't on the class now. She got 4, 5 other
Yeah.
classes. You can't just be on
That's how it
this,
was in
but
LA
it's
though.
good.
My son was in Magnet, and when we lived in LA, and he would be up like 12 just going to bed from home. From the time he got home at 5 till midnight, and that's
And
just
they really
that
need
was
a
the
balance. But
Yeah, that
They
was
need a
how
balance.
the curriculum was.
And so it's two, for the most part, we try to tie, we don't just take a field trip to take a field trip. Now, we went to the opera to see Hansel and Gretel.
everybody
Right.
can go to that though.
6th grade.
Oh.
And I was just shocked kids didn't know Hansel and Gretel. They didn't know who it was. So they did read the story, and they went. But it's the first time at an opera.
Yeah.
So it's something to just enjoying the moment that you're in without it being a next follow-up activity. Sometimes it's just to go to enjoy the moment. So like a snow day, we don't want to send out a whole bunch of homework if one day it snows. Let the kids go outside and enjoy the snow,
No, I get that.
right?
still,
But most of our stuff is taught. Like Hansel and Gretel, they read the whole story,
Well, that's elementary.
right? Well, they did it. So they learned it before they went. But then they were thrown off, and I didn't know it was an opera. So they goes there and it's an opera. Why are they singing? And so then the teacher's like, our kids didn't know it's an opera. You didn't tell us it was an opera. I didn't know. However, when I sat down and talked with the kids, they were able to compare the story they read to what they seen. We don't have to beat a dead horse on just doing another assignment.
I mean, I'm not saying, make it so rigorous, but I'm just saying it needs to be more than just a bus ride.
But
I mean,
sometimes,
and
but
I know
sometimes
the
it
bus
needs
ride
to just
is
be the
good.
bus
I
ride.
know that, because some kids don't get out of South Florida. I get that, but
I think that's adding more onto the teacher's plate though.
Sometimes it just has to be the moment,
Yeah.
right? So they went to the High Museum yesterday. They've been working on art all year. Some of these kids, their third year working on art, they go to the High. They're asking their guide a gang of questions. Like, that's enough, right? Because they've learned, the purpose of taking art is to learn to appreciate it as well.
yeah.
So they've learned to
That's what it's
appreciate
called,
art.
appreciation in college.
Yeah, I said when I went on the field trip with Mr. Brown's class for
Uh-huh.
broadcasting to CNN, I would say the kids did very well with regards to being engaged in that tour and asking questions, and it's like they came prepared. Like the tour guide was like, great question, so I was proud to be, a chaperone going with them, because my undergrad was mass comm, and to see them so engaged at that age made me proud as a parent of Camp Creek. So, I mean, I don't think, I get what you're saying about having them prepared and stuff like that, but I think the flip side of it is that these kids,
They really
just
need
want to
a
learn.
balance.
They just kind of want to have fun too, and it's like if you writing a paper and doing all this extra stuff, that's more work for the teacher when they already got stuff they're grading. I don't know. That's just my.
Because then the teacher got to sit with me and talk about their data.
You said what?
They got to talk to me about their data. And that's never comfortable.
No, I've been on field trips with Mr. Gibson, and I've been with the Roswell Walk, and
Uh-huh.
they've been phenomenal.
And that's a dry field trip to me. That
But
Roswell
those
Walk.
kids who want to learn and who are eager to learn, and who it's not just about getting out of South Fulton. You see it. You see it. And so there is a balance. And I think, if I hear you correctly, it might just be one of those things in terms of, again, those mental health issues, the psychosocial issues, getting the kids out who don't have those experiences that your kids have and that my grandson probably hasn't, and the way they're being raised. It is different. And somehow or another, we've got to come together and meet those needs. And someone should be able to recognize that your child is okay and not put forth that kind of attitude towards a parent who's working excessively to build up
A
this school
relationship, yeah.
as well by engaging and being a part of it. So I think it's just a balance.
It's
I
a
think
balance.
it makes your job harder, but you're available. And so I think the more we talk, the more parents like you and other people show up, I think it's going to be okay. It might not feel that way right now, but in 3 years from now, we'll see the fruit. And as these kids are graduating from high school, whatever high school that they go to, that they'll be successful. And some of that success will have started right here at Camp Creek.
Man, I appreciate it because I don't know what to expect for high school next year. You know what I mean?
And
it's
that's,
different. Yeah, I mean,
and so that's the thing that I'm interested in learning, right? So this 8th grade class, I came with them their second semester of the 6th grade year, right? And so it is a lot more rigorous. We revamped their bell schedule and everything. But my hope is, if you go back to what I was talking about, those 700 kids going to Westlake, they have to have those study habits. That's the work ethic of Woodward Academy,
and that's
Westminster.
why you don't tell a child to see it, because I tell Kamaya,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can't
we'll
be-
get that. You know, we'll
no,
fix
I'm
that.
saying, you can't be, I tell her every day, it ain't about what she said. You cannot be basic. You can't be just, you gotta set your bar high. You got other people in there that's already coming in at this level. You gotta get up to there.
I agree.
So that's our mindset we need to teach them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You can't just be scooting by.
Yeah. But
You
I
gotta
think
be up there.
this 8th grade class, so last year's 8th grade class, we lost 2 that were really good here. They went there, they couldn't handle the heartbreak of relationships. And then you have a young lady she didn't know if she was straight, bi.
Whatever.
It got confused. It just got,
confused.
and then we got involved.
Oh my
It just got out of control.
All out of control.
But the bulk of our kids, the academic, they passed 3 out of those 4 classes. Nobody failed 2 classes. So they got out the gate good. Now they got to stay consistent. And so Westlake is not going to change. And this is the danger of high schools. And I can't fix that here.
I have a daughter graduate.
90% graduation rate. Doesn't that sound good? This school had a 90% graduation rate. Sounds good, right? How many kids came in the 9th grade? 700. That means 70 kids didn't graduate. That is not good.
No.
That's almost 100 kids that didn't graduate. Does that make, so that's kind of how I look at this. And that's why I just touch on this real quick. That's why this is the big push for me. Because this is us giving our kids a leg up. And it doesn't matter on your intelligence. Right? And so if those of y'all that's been to like our Lost Boys exhibit, you see in that Lost Boys exhibit, you don't know if the kid's intelligence level. Right? But you do see workmanship or craftsmanship. They had the work ethic, and it was 48 kids. They had to get along with each other to get that job done. So that's where we're going. We just not there consistently. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm gonna go through these connections. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. This is the true passion. So the first two, what you have the course title, you have the teacher, and then you have the max number of students that can be in that class. And so I'm gonna go back to what I usually start with, but I didn't start this year. The vision of the school is to be the best middle school option, period. Not best South Side, not best black school, not best minority school, best middle school option, period. And so what Achievers offer, we want to be able to offer that. What Marietta City offers, we want to offer that. What Archimere offer, I feel those 3, if we can get the perfect mix of those 3, will be the best, period.
Archimere, Marietta, and who else?
Elite scholars.
Oh.
I think I said Achievers, but elite scholars. So our mission, because our students come from so many backgrounds, different backgrounds, our mission is to enrich students' lives through education, right? And so that whole social emotional learning, that's coming, but the district is leading that work, and we have a few pilot programs with Judge Turner, a juvenile judge that's big on this social emotional learning. I go to that meeting on the 16th with her at 2:30, and we'll roll that out next year as well. And then our goal, the whole reason of us coming here, is to prepare students for the 9th grade with a comparative advantage in their chosen path. So earlier I talked about this Generation Z. When I was in school, you go to college, military, or you could try to get to Detroit to work in General Motors and make decent money, right? The plans were kind of laid out. This generation don't have those, life just not that planned out. So what we do know, if they're passionate at what they do and they become good at it, they're marketable to the marketplace. And so we start that early in the 6th grade. You see the young man in 7th grade back there recording me. He mic'd me up. He did everything, and he got me good to go. And so he's learning stuff outside of the test. Doesn't matter what he makes on the test. We're pretty confident before he leaves Camp Creek in the 8th grade, when he goes to the 9th grade, he won't be a better cameraman. Right? So that's what we have. So if you look health PE, we have your regular health and PE. Coach Seawright and Coach Gregory, we have 2 types. Some kids just like to have fun. And they need to just have fun. I'm a history guy, so in one of the documentaries they had of the Holocaust, a lady mentioned a story. She said, imagine being in a place with kids and you never hear them laugh. Right? So it's okay to me for kids just to have fun. So we have health and PE for those that just want to have fun, but then we have a PE class for aspiring athletes. This kid comes tell me, Mr. Adams, I want to be a pro athlete. Fine, I got a PE class and you're going to be a pro athlete. You know how many pro athletes came out of South Fulton? A plethora. Yeah. Right? Cam Newton walked these same halls. Chance Womack, the Jackson boy that died from the Colts, Pac-Man Jones, all them came from this school through Westlake. So it's something in the soil in South Fulton that when I was at Westlake, each year we had two or more boys go pro in baseball. Chris Eubanks, the tennis player, went pro out of Westlake. He came through Camp Creek. It's something in the soil that produced tremendous athletes. It's a boy down here named Air in the 8th grade. Guarantee if he stay injury-free and jail-free, he'll be one of the hottest things. He might be another Heisman Trophy winner out of South Fulton. It's something in the soil, so we support that. Visual arts, that's Mr. Flowers. If you look right there, the max students per class is 16. The challenge we have for these teachers, I have to have kids entering competitions. I want them to win, but more importantly, I want them to learn how to compete beyond these walls. So I want him to be able to focus. We have a band class. Band goes up to 25. Then we have musical technology. Musical technology, or sound design sometimes called, teaches kids how to make beats and sound effects. This summer I have a bid out to see if we can teach them how to use real cameras, lighting, backdrops, and so forth. How to set up angles and shadows and all that good stuff. So we're going to offer both next year, graphic design and yearbook. So graphic design does a great job, but they're not producing a product and learning the process of producing a product. So that's why we have a yearbook course. The class I'm really excited about is construction. We offer construction next year. And we haven't hired the person. Our career center behind Banneker, they have construction class there. So we're going to work in collaboration to make sure when our kids leave that they're ready to go take on the next level.
That's really good because they have auto mechanics in school.
They got auto mechanics at Langston.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we
We
were
had
in school, we
that.
had like 4-H home ec, and you could like
Yeah,
come in. What
home
was it where you
economics,
could
all
learn,
that.
like the technical track for people that didn't want to go to college. I
Mm.
forgot what it was
Vocational
called.
school.
Yeah, vocational.
We still have it. We still have it.
There were high schools just for that.
Really? Oh.
Oh, they
okay.
still
Well,
have it?
yeah,
I was
they
up
did.
one.
Yeah.
We still have it in Fulton County.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
So
we
if you look at this, AVTV photography is vocational school,
Oh, okay.
right? Graphic design,
That's what it is.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
home ed.
Yeah, because Brooklyn, they, up at her last middle school in Virginia, they had that whole like home ec thing where he taught them how to cook and, you know.
We had
she
that in
missed
high
that.
school.
Why did
Yeah.
they take that
Teach
out?
you how to sew.
Did you see Sandtown on the news last year?
Yep, with them brownies.
I'm not
The
bringing
weed
home ec here.
brownies.
Oh, the weed.
I'm not.
Oh,
Parents were a lot different then.
Yeah.
I'm not. I could have brought home ec here,
No, we had home ec in high school, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
but they have culinary arts at the high school level. They have the
to the school or something?
Yeah, they brought
They
it to school. It was
did.
during
Them
Halloween.
kids got sick too.
yeah. No, but if you look at our culinary art program, when we had the board meetings here, they provide the food.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm not gonna manage that.
Oh, yeah.
I manage a kid with a saw before I let him bake a brownie. Cut the hand off. You ain't getting high.
Yeah.
So construction though, the reason why construction is, I'm passionate about this. I live on the east side. I live in Conyers. For years I lived in DeKalb County. Wesley Chapel is one of the main streets out there, and there's a Home Depot. And I used to go to that Home Depot when I first moved here, and I would see a lot of immigrants standing outside waiting for work, right?
Still do.
Now I see a lot of blacks
Yeah.
waiting to get picked up by immigrants,
Cascade too, the one in Cascade.
Oh, yeah.
right? The tables have turned.
Yeah,
I seen them go from raggedy trucks to vans to dually trucks, and now I see us standing out there. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know why we get away thinking everybody needs to go to four-year university. It's great. It's great. However, it's two people I was the only one to get past the 9th grade. My grandma had 13, all her kids had 4 or more. I'm the only one to get past the 9th grade out of my age group. Now, some young ones have graduated from college since me. My cousin Gene, this dude has a nice house in Savannah. He has vans, he has jet skis, and he has a boat. He does heating and air. And he went to prison for a good portion of his early life. I got a brother that lives up in Virginia, Pentagon City Mall. He has a store on the 6th floor. On the 3rd floor called Socks and Draws. Guess what he sells? Socks and draws. never got past the 9th grade, got the business idea in prison, and has a paid-off townhouse in Georgetown,
Because your destiny.
right? So college gives you opportunity, but this construction thing, I look at it as a missing link. We've just let this business go. My house was built in the 80s. My bricks are still perfectly straight on my house. Some of my other people that had these houses built in the 2000s, their bricks every which way. Right? And so it's certain we're builders.
Masonaries, yeah.
But we've just gotten away with and no matter I'm not telling I want a kid to become a carpenter or a brick mason, but you're gonna have to fix something in your house. I got a buddy that had to hang up his ceiling fan. He was gonna call somebody to hang up his ceiling fan. Are you kidding me? A ceiling fan? It's on the ground and 2 wires. What are you talking about?
It's hard.
It ain't hard,
For people that don't know how to do it,
and that's a shame.
well, I've been
Now-
electrocuted somebody.
This media
Who
center,
modeled for him though?
I don't know.
He couldn't
This
handle ceiling fan.
this media center, I met with them once a week when they were renovating this media center. I'm the only person of color sitting at the table. Now this is a multi-million-dollar renovation. Most of the people sitting around the table were females. Everybody don't have to swing a hammer. You got the project manager, you got the appraiser, you got the inspector, you got all kind of things in construction that makes a whole lot of money that we ain't a part of. So I just don't want kids down there making lunch boxes out of wood. We're gonna teach them the business of construction. Herman Russell, why is he the only one? So we got and if you come to our career day, he's here. His company's here. We have the partnership to build young builders. The mistake I made in my family, we're trying to correct it right now. I got a house, my uncles got houses, we got all these nice houses, right, that we go to once or twice a year to visit. But we want to be together all the time. Now, what the idiots we were. Why didn't we just buy 5 acres and build our own subdivision? So that's what we're working on now as a family. We could have built one big pool. Everybody don't need to have a pool.
Yeah.
We could have had one place for the kids to ride their 4-wheelers and dirt bikes. And nobody come down our street because it's our subdivision. And when we die, it's their subdivision. Right?
Yeah, you gotta
So
do
we gotta begin that thought process here. And so that's that. Then we have Avid. Those that are college bound, and I really support college because I'm a college graduate. Those that are college bound that may have the intelligence but not the soft skills to get it. That's what Avid does. It provides those soft skills and habits, organization, accountability. Email your teacher, hey, I missed an assignment. Ms. Robinson will say, show me the email you sent your teacher asking for that assignment.
So are they just promoting 4-year college in Abbott, or
They're just promoting good skills.
oh,
Good skills.
This is something talked about with other parents. You guys haven't thought about, maybe having an elective for kids to teach them about how to balance a checkbook, credit, anything financial, or even in construction, all of that is great, but being a business owner, I never see that in the schools now, setting
So
that
they
foundation.
had it, when I went to high school, we had banking and finance. So people laugh at me now, but I still balance a checkbook. I write checks and stuff.
I still
But
write
we
checks.
were taught that in high school. And that goes back to here, it wasn't a lot of middle schools. You went from elementary to high school. So the stuff that you're talking about that you got back in North Virginia middle school, we
Well, I
bypassed
went
that
to
and we
school
went.
here, and I had middle school.
It was just a few,
7th and 8th,
but not a lot.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
So
But we got it in high
for
school.
Brooklyn, she knows. She said one of the teachers had them raise their hand. Who knows how to do a balance? And she raised hers. It was like her and one other kid. They're not teaching kids how to start a business. That's what we taught, and with my ex-husband, I taught our kids. You can go to college if it's applicable, but owning your own business. What about credit? Teaching them about the utilization of credit. You know what I'm saying?
So
Stuff like
those it's a sound good, feel good, but it's not a good thing, right? For me to find that teacher, it's like finding a true diamond in the rough. So we can offer like a marketing or entrepreneurship program, but all my years at a high school, I've never seen it done right. And I've done 22 years at around some good people. That's why I don't have a marketing program here. I've never seen it good. And the schools I was at, they go to these state conventions, the DECA and all that stuff. They win the awards.
So, when I was in middle school, we had a career research paper we had to write.
Yeah.
Before you finished middle school, and it identified what career you wanted to go, what was the path, whether or not you had to go to college, whether or not you were going to go to the voc tech school, you were going to go to the predominantly college-bound school. How are you going to do this?
But on the high school level, they have it. And then it's the whole domain in economics called personal finance, where they teach it. And kids take econ either in the 10th grade. If they're on advanced track, they're taking it in the 10th grade. If they're on
We did economics in 9th.
12th grade, if they're on the on-level track.
I have a question. Can we, matter of fact, this happened just yesterday when I went to the bank.
Hold on, let me say, but I say this though. My 10th grader has had a business since the 7th grade. Right? I took her down, $135 to get your business license. She's had a business since then. It's not that difficult if your child has that knack to show them how to do it. This morning, she does custom apparel. Right? So kids, they have a JV track meet. It's probably going to be canceled. But she made 2 kids some headbands with their name on it. Put her Instagram on the back. And this morning, before I could wake up, she down on the heat press getting headbands for kids that want those headbands, right? And so I'm not, like I showed her, but to me, I think that's a better push in home than at school. Because that's not I go here a day and learn business. That's more of a mindset at the house. Like we got the infrastructure in the home for you to manage your business, right? You have your PayPal, you have your Zelle, you have your Cash App, you have all these things set up. You have your sheets to track your orders. You have the machine to mail stuff off, right? This sublimation has just changed the game. Like she's saving about her sublimation shirt machine. Like I don't have to do that because I set the infrastructure at home. And school can't do that. School can't catch everything.
That's not what I'm saying.
Right? And I've never, in 24 years, the 22 years I did at high school, I've never seen a school produce it. I just haven't.
Okay, yesterday when I went to deposit the money from Ptsa at BB&T, the guy approached me, he said, we would like to come out to Camp Creek. So they want to do exactly what you were talking about. So it may not be a class that a child takes, but can we have, where we have
Like a workshop?
merchants
Yeah, during
to
the
come
day.
into a workshop either during the school day or like a PTA meeting at night where they do that and they teach the parents and they teach the kids. Now, the question about during the day I'm asking is because a lot of times when we mention things, it's like, we can't do this because testing, testing is always an issue. So can we do that? Can we have these people to come in and take some time and teach these kids?
So we had an entrepreneur here last week, and the kids learned a lot from her. But I'm still going to lean to, I don't think the school has the capacity to do that well. Right? We can do a hodgepodge of mess. I said I didn't see it done successfully, not through a class. At Westlake, and it corrupted some kids, we had a real estate investment club, right? And so it's a lady, and you can look up, I can't think of her name, she's the bookkeeper at Banneker. She had 2 boys come through Westlake, both of them bright. Her youngest boy received his pilot license as a senior. He didn't graduate on time. Not because he didn't have the intelligence. That joker flipped the house. And once his mouth got wet on flipping houses, I don't care about writing this paper, teacher. I just made 80 grand. Right? I got to flip this next house. And he still, when I talked to her a couple weeks ago at the Thrive Conference, he still has that same bug. He just put his pilot license on the shelf. He's buying properties. He's making money. But that was an inconvenience to everybody for him to get there, and he paid the opportunity cost of becoming that person. Inside of a class where I've just never seen it done. I got this teacher that's his brain in business, but that's teaching, right? I'm a brainiac in the business world, but I'm gonna commit 190 days of my year, 8 hours a day, to teach. I haven't seen that person.
But can we do workshops like that?
After school, yes. After school, yes. Cause you ain't gonna have Bill Edwards coming here cussing me out talking about why my school failing.
Right.
And Councilwoman Harris. All right, so Avid, read 180. Read 180. So I told you guys we're gonna have 20 to 30% of our kids come in and can't read on grade level. They don't have an option. They're gonna stay in read 180, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, or until they get to reading at grade level. All right? Because they need, if you can't read, you're not gonna graduate high school. Next year, a new course that we're gonna offer is library science. It's gonna be housed in the media center. If you look at the max, there's 4 students. Ms. Atkins Simmons will teach them everything on how to run a media center, how to check out books, how to check them in, anything around library science. And so that's gonna be a good class. I've seen that run very well at the high school. And of course, we offer our 3 languages, Latin, Spanish, and French.
Can I ask another question?
Uh-huh.
What's happening in the elementary schools?
With,
Because when I'm in the class and I'm looking at things and I'm looking at, just observing, it's like it's things that the kids should have learned there. So that's why it's such a disconnect. Like when they get to high school, they're a little bit slow because they didn't. It's not so much they didn't learn what they needed to in middle school. It's like they didn't get it in the beginning. So when they get here, it's just I don't understand what's happening from 1 through 5. What's happening?
So I can tell you because I have a pre-K,
Okay.
but like I talked to Mr. Adams, and she is at Gillette. My oldest daughter went to Gillette, and I have this big thing going where you listen to people say, "Oh, this is a horrible school," and I did not want to take my child there. She was at Fairwood at first, and they rezoned us because they sent too many kids there. But she did very well there, and it's all about
teacher.
the teachers, and she had awesome teachers that pushed her. So when she got here, like the 8th grade team, she had those type of teachers over there that pushed her. But unfortunately, the job of the principal is to grow the teachers. So all her teachers are like in admin now. When I go there, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be letting my baby stay here, But her pre-K teacher is, when I say awesome, she is awesome. She go over and beyond. I mean, they do projects in pre-K. They know how to read. They do sight word tests every week. Like they are on it. But it's the teacher.
It's the teacher.
It's the teacher.
Listen, I was at.
They not getting it. It's the teacher. Some of them don't. They just do enough to get a check. I'm
I
telling you.
know, and like I had this math
That is
class,
very unfortunate.
and those kids I know are supposed to be
But that's
late
the
and
truth.
slow, but the kids was doing this. I was just like, I'm talking about basic stuff.
Well,
and you're in the 6th grade.
I was not
in middle
6th grade.
school, that bothered me to the point that I did something because I care, and I don't have to do this because I.
So let me just say this. So when you talk about difference, her baby gonna go to kindergarten next year. She's probably had over 300 books read to her. Somebody else baby gonna go to kindergarten and haven't had 1 book read. And so those numbers are determined by the zip code. I'm not making an excuse. That's the reality, right? So her 300 books read to her. I'm just potty trained. So it's gonna be a divide forever. Right, and we can't. When you closing that divide, I can't slow her down to catch me up.
I know, but like, what do we?
And you have a lot of. We have mothers here that are not even 32. Right, we still got some mamas that are having a 30th birthday while their kid is here at school. Right, and so you may not be smoking a whole lot of weed in your house. But somebody else is smoking weed all day and all night, and the kid come here smelling like weed and they don't smoke. that impacts their brain because they're still in the developmental stages. And they just didn't start smoking weed like that. When they came to middle school, they've been doing this the whole child life. Right?
I know, we can't save everything.
No, it's,
No, you can't.
and so we have to,
I know we can try, but we just
yeah.
can't.
But
You just have to
I wouldn't
know,
say
too,
that,
when you're the parent, and that's why I say, when-
And the school can't do everything.
right,
And
and
it's
that's why
that
I
parent.
made the statement that I did, and I said the parent. And Mr. Adams said middle school.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think it becomes important then to know that your child will be okay. And even though it may end up in a system that's not okay, if you continue to do, and as this woman over here was saying, what you need to do for your student, it's going to turn out okay, and all you can do is support the principal and support what is positive in the school.
Right.
Because you got to move on. I mean, you know Jeremiah and myself, and coming back here this year, because I know Jeremiah is going to be successful. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with what you have here. I don't have a problem with his eighth grade teachers and how they rally around him for his success. They know what he needs, and part of that is because I had to deliver. I had to come here. I have to educate people. I have to help
You
people.
have to do your
and
part
we
as
have
a
parents who
parent.
can't do that. They're 30 years old. So
and they don't make them bad. They love their kids,
right.
Yeah,
but they know what they know.
yeah.
You got
My grandparents' meeting, we talk about some of the grandparents who had to lose their housing, so they're homeless now because now they've been given 3 and 4 grandchildren.
yeah,
Those grandchildren are ending up in the schools, but they're living in shelters.
and you got grandmas in their 40s,
Yeah,
Right. My niece was 34.
that's reality.
right? And so if we say wisdom comes through the bloodline, everybody's wisdom isn't normal wisdom. And some unfortunately in our communities, some abnormal behavior is considered normal.
Yeah.
Like it's abnormal to tell your kid to go to school and hit that child. But some people tell their kid,
You better hit them back.
she put that on your Instagram, but tomorrow when you see her, you need to hit her. That's abnormal behavior. But for that family, that's normal.
Yeah.
You putting them out because of that? Yes.
Yeah.
They attacked another student.